So if I could welcome Cristina to the virtual stage.
Thank you, Peter. Let me share my screen. Hi, everybody. First of all, thank you to the IFE for setting up this event. It's great when we all get together and discuss the issues ongoing in the industry. In the first part of today, we had international speakers joining us. We're going to bring it back to the Middle East with my presentation here, but I don't want to mention all the topics addressed except for code compliance. They are applicable in all regions. Okay. We're going to expand on Matthew's topics about the importance of passive fire protection. And as Peter mentioned, Lee was supposed to be coming before my presentation, so there'll be some references. As you can see, the title and the focus of his was proper qualification of installers. So you'll see me reference that a little bit today. So let me here very quickly, we'll touch today on the importance of proper installation and qualified inspections. This is key for the performance of passive fire protection systems. We'll go over code compliance, stakeholders, benefits, and how to resolve site issues. I'll also give you some resources to address this in the future. So very quickly, just a quick overview between products and systems. When we talk about passive fire protection, we can think of products such as, insulation, gypsum boards, facade panels, concrete, coatings. The fire performance of those specific products, it can be influenced by the installation and the maintenance, but the performance itself is very intrinsic. However, when we think about systems, which is what you actually have in building, is when installation and maintenance becomes very, very significant. Okay, when we talk about systems, it's usually several products coming together to perform a specific task. Okay, so we have facades, walls, ceiling, doors, ducts, fire stops, etc. Okay, so today we'll focus on these systems and its performance, fire performance. So the design of the system, of course, the production, testing, and certification are key components to the performance, but also we have installation and then inspection and maintenance. Here it's split like it's half and half. Keep in mind for some systems, and even depending on the system and the issues, it can be up to 100%, okay, of the pie here, how it performs. You can have the best door in the world, but if the vision kit that you use, the glazing is not fire resistant, there's no point to that door. Okay, in the event of fire, there's going to be an opening. Okay, so it can be up to 100% of the performance. So it is very important. In the UAE, which we're going to focus today, we have the UAE Fire and Life Safety Code in its 2018 version. This was also included in previous versions, but we're going to focus today on the existing requirements. So just to give you an idea, there's 26 sections dedicated to the topic in the UAE Code, okay, the latest version. Also, on top of that, we have a chapter 18, a new addition to the code, to the latest version, where the responsibilities of each of the stakeholders is included. In that chapter, installation and inspection is under the responsibility of the owner, the consultant, the contractor, house of expertise, and facilities management company, okay? So this affects almost every stakeholder. And we'll reference also manufacturers. They're not here, but they play a key role and they benefit from proper installation and inspection as well. So very quickly, we're going to go through a few examples. We'll see an overview at the end of the requirements in the UAE Code. So for example, for doors, again, we're looking at installation and proper qualification of installers, like Lee was going to address, but also inspection. Matthew mentioned this earlier today. You can have qualified people, and that's good, but also having a third party come in and check, that also plays a key role in the proper performance of all passive fire protection systems. So quickly, door installers need to be trained and certified, okay? They need to make sure that it's installed as per the listed systems. Inspections shall be carried out in accordance to international standards. Okay, there are some of those for doors. We have NFP 80, we have PS 999 Annex 1 that gives guidance on this. Okay, there are international standards out there. They're not referenced specifically in the code, but they're very generically referenced in this section. So the code does have a requirement for door assembly inspection, periodic. So here it says annually, once a year, at least. So you need to check all these doors at least once a year. And you have to keep records of these inspections. That is what the code establishes. We'll get to enforcement in a bit. For facades, the same. Everybody knows the importance of proper installation and inspection. So you will see it's throughout the code in many sections. So in facades, for example, it's consultant responsibility to ensure that the installers are qualified and approved by civil offense. It's their responsibility to ensure that the installation is carried out with approved installers and fabricators, okay, as per the design specification. So you need to use qualified and approved people. Then their qualifications. So here they need to train as per the manufacturer standards. It goes into installer qualification as well. Of course, facades require inspections at different stages of the installation. These are all very important points that it's important they are actually implemented. For fire stops as well. So again, the code goes through different qualification programs that can be accepted. Inspection and field quality control. It mentions standards in this case, the code for fire stores. So standard practice for on-site inspections. And then they need to be the owners responsible for inspecting them annually. Okay, so this is just some snippets from the UAE Code that I think give a good overview, but in general, what it says is you need to focus on the qualifications of installers and inspectors. They're the ones backing and checking the quality of the works. The importance of to the proper performance of systems. You know, the fact that it's highlighted in every section, this is something that everybody's aware of and we need to enforce. You need to keep records, okay? And then maintenance and regular inspections are also very important, okay? The moment the building is handed over, the likelihood of a fire happening on that day, you know, not great, but over its lifespan, we need to make sure that whenever that situation happened, everything is in working condition. So regular inspections are required for that. So now I want to give you some examples, situations that we've run into. These are all here in the Middle East, in the UAE, I think all of them. Situations where we have been called, or examples of situations that if installation had been done properly, inspection had been done properly, this would have been not an issue. So this was an example from Knauf, an issue that they had. So they had a drywall partition installed in a project in Abu Dhabi. So that system was there for both fire and acoustic performance. So when testing on site for the acoustic performance, the values were not as expected, okay? So they opened it up and they realized there was no insulation and the wrong boards had been installed, okay? So going back to the initial pie chart, design and performance were okay. Now the issue here was installation and lack of inspection. If this had been installed by qualified people and inspected afterwards, the likelihood of this happening would have been a lot less. So in this case, they were lucky. For acoustics, you know, they could do site testing. For fire, it's a different story. There's no way to test on site. So assurance of performance can be provided only through qualified inspection. We always advise to go for third-party inspection. We'll go a little bit into what that means and methods that prove competency and independence, which is key in inspection. But that could have been avoided. In this case, it was thanks to that acoustic, but of course that system, in the case of fire, it wouldn't have performed properly, okay? Without the insulation with the wrong boards. Now, another situation we run into, fire doors in a hotel here. Intertek were called to fill label relatively new fire doors. It was not a 10 or 20-year-old project. They were relatively new. So when we were field labeling, not only we label and inspect that the door has been everything done properly, we also inspect against NFPA 80, okay? So NFPA 80 is the standard for installation and maintenance of fire doors. So when we do that on site, we found a lot of issues, okay? Door production was done according to tested and listed designs, all of that was okay. So again, the first half of that pie chart was okay. But installation and maintenance were issues. So what we found, the vision panel glass was not fire resistant. That in an inspection would have been caught. As Camila was saying earlier, fire-ready glass has a stamp, has a mark. Okay, anyone qualified would have caught that at the beginning. The wrong hardware had been installed. The frames were not grouted. This is something that is very important to the fire performance. The gasketing in some doors had been removed or damaged. Okay, the closures were not engaged. And then wrong gaps and clearances around between the leaf and the frame were found. Okay, so of course in this case there was an inspection. Remedial action was taken, but this was a complex and expensive process. Okay, doing inspections at the right time and using qualified staff is a good investment. At the end, fixing and remediation measures are always more complex, more expensive, and there are more headaches for every party involved. Other examples of issues we've seen, these are a bit older doors. So as we said earlier, when a fire happens, we need to make sure everything's at peak performance. So doors here with the leaves damaged, exits blocked, or even locked, like in the third picture here. There's a fire exit. Fire doors also, one of the key roles that they play is in the event of fire, they need to be closed so that they can keep the fire from spreading. When you put a stopper on that door, it's no longer a fire door, it's an opening. So it is important that proper maintenance and periodic inspection is carried out to resolve all these issues, okay? So that, as we said, in the event of a fire, everybody can get out in time. Other issues we found, for example, with facades, curtain wall systems. Intertek is called to inspect the facade system in an operational high-rise building. So the curtain wall construction did not match the tested system and construction requirements. Again, if this had been installed by a qualified installer, this would have been caught. If it had been inspected by a third party, this would have been caught. Okay. Also, this is very common, improper mineral wool. Okay. The perimeter barrier installation was wrong. The fibers were running horizontally, perpendicular to the curtain wall instead of vertically. For these barriers, it's very important. Compression is very important, and they don't compress properly when they're horizontally installed. They need to be vertically installed, the fibers. So this was an issue. Again, this would not have happened if proper inspection had happened. Again, at the end of the day, we find solutions. That's what the goal is. But the complications, the cost, they're all very, very high to resolve them when, with proper inspection at the right time, all of this could have been avoided. So when resolving site issues, one important thing is find the issues. Okay, so periodic qualified inspection. For new buildings, during installation, it is important to have people who know, a third party inspect. And then for the resolution of issues, always look for expertise. Fire safety, as we know, is critical. So don't just go and find a halfway solution. It is important that the proper expertise is applied to find a proper solution. So proper installation and inspection, they are a worthwhile investment, okay? Resolving issues is always more expensive and has benefits like compliance, liability, and risk mitigation. We all want that. Every stakeholder is looking for that. So I went ahead and just added here a few resources for all stakeholders if they want to go a little bit more in depth or look for qualified installers or qualified inspectors. Where can you find them? Okay. So here we have manufacturers, as I mentioned earlier, they're very interested in having this issue resolved. They deal with it on a day-to-day. Their products don't perform, and it's not because of the product, it's because the installation was done wrong on site. Okay. So you can see here examples of ASA Abloy, Knauf Training Center. Lee was going to mention they have set up a training center specifically that certifies installers. Okay, they've set up an IQP program. Also, industry associations, there are options. So for doors, there's a DHI, the Door and Hardware Institute, and they have a directory where you can find professionals. There's a few here in the UAE and in the Middle East in general. Fire stops as well. The International Fire Stop Council also has a directory where you can find qualified people. Okay, and then lastly, for inspection, if you're looking for third party, you always need to look for an ISO 17020 accreditation. What does that mean? accreditation means that there's a third party, usually government entity, looking over them, okay? For 17020, not only do they need to prove competence, but also impartiality. So when you're looking for a third party for inspection, you need to look for 17020 standard, okay? Highlighted here. And then usually for products that have an inspection standard, you need to look for the reference to that standard, okay? So this is something that inspection bodies have readily available. They can be found online. Accreditation bodies also have public directories. So it is a way, inspection body, you can find a lot of information that there's a lot of inspection bodies, qualified and impartial parties that can do this, okay? So just closing thoughts, I think as Matthew addressed this, the importance of a comprehensive passive fire protection strategy. But if the installation is not done right, all of that effort and work goes out the window. Okay, all that expectations that we put on that strategy, it goes out the window. We're looking, it is very important, installation and inspection, not only for the safety of the occupants, but also from a cost perspective and liability perspective as well. All stakeholders benefit from proper inspection and installation, but most of all, the end users. Okay, at the end of the day, we're talking about building. Who's going to be using and benefit from that is the people using those buildings. So we need to make sure that at the end of the day, they are safe when they need to be. And lastly, I like to say here in this region, there are requirements the code mentions, but the enforcement from our experience, more can be done in this regard. Okay, we can all get involved, from manufacturers, industry associations, specifiers, you know, on projects, include the requirement, the quality checks, the qualifications of those people carrying out the quality checks. Okay, I gave you some guidance on that. Contractors, everybody, okay? From my end, all I can do is offer assistance in this. If anybody, any guidance I can provide. From our point of view, we focus mostly on doors and facades in this region, but there are other options, there are alternatives, there are directories, and I like to welcome all parties. If they want to develop training departments, we can certify personnel. So we can support on that. If you want to create a qualification personnel scheme, we can do that. Okay, we've just done that with Knauf the last couple of months. They set up a training center, they put it together, and we support and provide that third party. Okay, so I think it's everybody's role to make sure that all the efforts that are put in the design stage, the production, it doesn't go to waste at the end of the day because of improper installation or the lack of inspections. Thank you very much.